Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome in to yet another great Sunday here as Minnesota Wild fans, as the Minnesota Wilds off of a nice win on Friday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now we'll try to win another game against the Toronto Maple Leafs here today. We'll talk about it as the show unfolds, but I'm going to hand things right over to Denny to get him started here today.
Welcome, everybody, to What the Hell Are You Smoking? And I tell you, I have a few things to say today that I know you think I'm crazy, but I've been told that plenty times in the past. And I want to talk about Kaprizov first. There's been a lot of talk about Kaprizov this week, as there should be. 21 points in 10 games, plus 12. All awesome numbers. I want you to look at the big picture or think about the big picture for a second. My 62 years of hockey, I've never got to watch a superstar on our team. And Kirill is definitely a superstar. In fact, I think when it all ends up said and done, he could end up number 2 in the NHL all-time points leaders. And these are my reasonings for saying that. Through 288 games, he's got 351 points and he's a plus 64. And right now, as I told you at the beginning of the season, I expected at least 120 up to 150 points for him this year. Well, he's just coming into his own now. So I think it's reasonable to expect that he's going to be 120 points or more pretty much the rest of his life. And if you put 14 years at 120 points per year, that puts him 2,031 points for his career. There's only been one hockey player in NHL history to hit 2,000 points, and that was Gretzky. He had 2,857 points. And so when I say you're looking at greatness, it's because you truly are. And you're so lucky to watch him from the beginning of his career, and you get to watch it all through his career. Because Gretzky, there'll never be another player like Gretzky. He had 200-point seasons. We'll never see that this age, today's game.
No.
But Kaprizov is just a star. He's a highlight reel every game, and he's only getting better. And with Rossi up front, with Zuggs, you haven't seen the best of that line at all yet. They're just going to flourish. And that's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing to watch. I mean, watching Kaprizov is just a joy, as I'm sure you all agree. And that's why I think we're so lucky, because my 62 years of hockey, I've never got to watch a superstar front to back. I got to watch Gretzky for 10 years and Lemieux and all the other greats, but they weren't on my team. Now we have somebody on our team. And I'm delighted that I get to say that. Because Minnesota Wild, all Minnesota teams kind of get dumped on, actually. And it's so nice. Seth was saying that ESPN had him, what they have him projected at for this year?
As of right now, the ESPN projection, and this just takes into account what he's done so far. And so since he's played all 10 games, they have him projected 82 games played, 57 goals, 115 assists, 172 total points. and a plus 98, which would be, I don't even know how they get to that number, but I mean, he was. I just was tallying up the numbers here from the point that John Hines took over to the end of the season. He was on a 114-point pace from our November 27th to the end of the season. So,
right.
120 is definitely within reach, especially the way that he started. And he's doing all this being still the focal point of that line. Just wait until opponents are like, well, we can't throw all of our attention at him. We got to spread it out. Wait until he starts to be able to take advantage of those types of matchups.
Absolutely. That's why he's such a beauty to watch. Because right now they don't know what to do about him, and it'll be interesting to see what teams do to try and slow him down. Because players automatically just gravitate to Kaprizov when he's on the ice, and that opens up so many holes. And that's why he's got so many assists already. He's one of the best passers I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen some great passers. Gretzky being number one. I mean, there was nothing he couldn't do without a puck. And Lemieux was awesome. And, there's been a lot of great players. But I really think that when it's all said and done, Kaprizov is going to end up number 2 in the NHL all-time points leaders. And I took instead of doing 20 years to make up for games missed and whatever, I took 2 years off of his 20. So I'm only adding points for 18 years instead of 20. And that's how I got to this. Fans got any thoughts on that? Let's hear it right now.
Yeah, Amanda was, we were kind of answering this in the chat, but this would be good to get your thoughts on it. Ovechkin's chase of Wayne Gretzky's goal record. I think Trav put the numbers in here. Ovi with 859. Gretzky's now at 894. He's getting close, and Washington is doing their best to try to get him as many shots as possible so that he can get that pretty quick.
Well, he's got one of the very best shots in hockey ever. I mean, he's just so good. But you got to realize, too, how many years has Ovi played?
That's a great
Anybody
question.
know?
Let me find it here. Let's see if anybody in the chat. Well, I just got to pull it up. He's played in 1,436 games. Urban says 19, 18. So quite a bit of time.
Well, and Gretzky did that in 1,458 games. So there's really no comparison. Gretzky quit when he could still. He was above average player. He just had enough. It's unfortunate for all of you who didn't get to watch Gretzky play, because he truly is best player of all time, and it'll never be touched, I don't think. I can't think anybody even comes close to him. Yager was second with 1,921 goals, and that took him 20 years. And Gretzky did it in 14 years. So, big difference. And Ovi, he may get the goals record, but he doesn't even come close to points. And he's doing it in 6 more years than Gretzky. So take it for what it's worth.
Hoptics has an interesting thing to think about here. Something I legitimately worry about, and I don't even want to put into the universe, is the teams are going to start taking runs at Kaprizov. They already do, but it will get worse, and there will be more attention as he, continues to become even more of a superstar in this league. If he were to get hurt, obviously that takes almost all of the offense off this Minnesota Wild team.
Well, my feelings on this are this. Kaprizov is a rising superstar who hasn't really gotten the admiration of everybody that he should. But the NHL knows what they have in Kaprizov, so they're gonna start protecting him just like they do Connor Bedard and Draisaitl and the rest. You're going to see a lot less of that because the NHL is going to let them know if you do, you're done, and that's the way the NHL works.
Well, and to piggyback off of that, I think we're seeing a little more of an edge to Kirill in the game against the Penguins. I think it was he took a run at somebody himself. So as he starts to do more of that stuff, there's going to be less of an inclination of players trying to do something to him because he's shown that he is capable of dishing it right back.
Oh yeah, he doesn't take any shit out there. Number one, and when Winnipeg comes, I'm worried about that one. I hope we got a game plan and the refs know what's going on. I'm sure Hines and Billy's going to, let them know what's going on because cheap shots aren't any place in hockey, period. I mean, there's no place for cheap shots like that. And we both know what happened to Kaprizov last year.
Well, I guess the good part of that is that Winnipeg does not have Brendan Dillon anymore. I don't even know where he went. I think he went to New Jersey.
I don't know.
And Logan Stanley's on injured reserve.
Good.
Let's see where did he go? Yeah, New Jersey Devils. So
good.
You're gonna see him. I don't know. Is he even having? Oh, he's got 4 points in 14 games. Sweet, sick, awesome, great numbers.
Yeah, he made the team. I'm sure the NHL knows what they have in Kaprizov now, and they're going to start protecting him like they do all the great players. They haven't yet, really, but I think you're going to see that because he's a superstar. Just because he's in Minnesota doesn't mean he doesn't get the protection that all the rest of the superstars get, which he hasn't in the past, but I think you're going to see it happen.
Amanda said Dylan's having a JoJo type of season.
Oh.
Not wrong.
Any other questions on Kaprizov?
Not on Kaprizov specifically, but we did have a couple right off the bat. Keith wanted to know, the hockey guy ranked the Wild 7th in the Central before the season and now has them 6th in the entire league.
This morning's power ranking, he was number 5. As you know, I do a power ranking with Shannon every week. Although I fell asleep and I didn't get it sent off in time because I now have the Minnesota Wild ranked number 2. He has Florida and Rangers ahead of the Wild. Even though we beat Florida and we beat Tampa twice, they don't consider it enough quality wins. I don't get that. We play who we play. Columbus is 5-3, and they look down at Columbus as not a quality team. Well, I beg to differ there. And Florida has played 13 games, and the Wild have only played 10. So I don't understand how he's got Florida ahead of Minnesota, but that makes for a good dispute. And of course, everybody has Winnipeg number 1.
Yeah.
And as I talked about, that's going to be a statement game when Winnipeg comes here because we're a whole different team than even at the beginning of the season. I don't think they have an answer for Kaprizov. Nobody does.
Not a clean one.
Yeah.
We got a couple of rapid fire questions I want to get to here because it's stuff regarding the game today. Let's start with Trav. Russo reported both Mojo and Midzi were not skating. Any word on that? So Middleton did not practice yesterday because of the birth of I don't know if it's his first child or it's the birth of a child. And this has been talked about even since back on the road trip. Is that his wife is due at any moment, and so I'm imagining that is just when that happened. I'm pretty sure he is going to be available to play. I should be. As far as Johansson, he blocked a shot in the latter stages of the Tampa Bay game, and his leg, I think, got a little messed up. But
oh, geez, I'm so sorry. That's the best thing that can happen to the team.
I mean,
as far as I'm concerned.
I guess we'll see if the Wild needed to make a call up. They could today, but I haven't seen anything as of yet. So I would imagine. Well, I guess we'll see.
I imagine they're going to put Hartman in Mojo's place.
Yeah.
That's Hines. Seems how they sent our boy down to Iowa. It just makes sense to put Hartman on center because he's very versatile. He can play center, wing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And this goes directly into Tom's question. Did we discuss Liam Ogren getting sent down as of yet? We had not, but we certainly can right now.
Well, the problem with Ogren, and this is something I was going to bring up in the show, I have a real problem with how Hines is coaching time management. It's one of my biggest pet peeves with him. There aren't many, but this is one of them. When you're playing the fourth line 7 minutes, it doesn't help the fourth line, and it doesn't help the team because you're not developing. That's a mistake. I don't care how good a coach you are. The very minimum the fourth line should be playing is a minimum 10 minutes. And really, you'd like to see 12. And, they said Ogren really didn't do anything. Well, he didn't really get a chance to show anything. It's on the fourth line, 7 minutes a game. What are you going to do? That's one of the things I don't like about what Hines is doing. And there aren't that many things that I find wrong with his coaching right now. But that's one of them. And now that Mojo's on the IR, hopefully he stays there for a long time.
I don't think he's on injured reserve, but potentially injured.
Well, but we can pray and hope. Because after the first couple games, he's reverted back to old Mojo. The first 2 games he played with passion, which is something he never did last year, and he's quit doing already this year. I got no respect for him as a hockey player, as you all know. We can ship him off somewhere for a bag of pucks. I could care.
Here's an update from Russo yesterday. Marcus Johansson not practicing, blocked that shot yesterday that made him leave for part of the second. Jake Middleton also not practicing, and then Russo followed that up saying Johansson's probable. According to Hines, Middleton is baby-related and is expected to play. Middleton joked last night that he's been trying not to poke the bear. He must have.
Good one.
So they should both be in the lineup. Because I think if they needed somebody to take Johansson's spot, that would have happened today. And yep. I will say too, a lot of the call-ups and send-downs, especially at this point in the season, if you have home games, are going to be cap-related to try to accumulate cap, since the cap adds up on a daily basis.
Right.
And so I guess the Wild just figured with everybody back, let's get Ogren down to Iowa, get him some playing time, and reevaluate. But yeah, I'm of the belief that you put players in roles that you expect them to be able to take at some point. And fourth line, I guess I just don't see Ogren playing that type of a role in his career.
He's not. He's a second line player. He'll get his chance. He needs to be in Iowa so he can be playing.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that because with fourth line, 7 minutes a game, that doesn't do him any good. Doesn't do the fourth line any good. You know, I disagree wholeheartedly with Hines on how he's working time management. And then the third thing that I have a problem with Mr. Hines and his coaching. Why does Bogle and Morrell get to keep playing even though they're minus? You know, Bogle's -3 the other night. That happens all the time to him. Why do they not put Hunt and Chisholm on the third line? Because I know damn well they're not going to give up, be a -3. They might get -1, but they're not going to be getting -3. It makes no sense to me why they continually put Bogle, Merrill, when we got Hunt, Chisholm ready to go. You know, that's at kids versus, you know, regular players. And that's another thing Hines won't play the kids. And I've always had a problem with that. And go ahead.
You know who doesn't have a no-move clause? Yakov Trenin.
Well, getting to Trenin, you know what? He's a smart player. He's a plus player at damn near every game. He just hasn't had any highlights yet. He's still finding his way on this team. He's played a couple of games where the lines have looked really good. He just got to get his footing and find out where he has to figure out where he belongs on this team and the coaching, what they expect of him. That's going to come because he's not a bad player. I mean, he's a little slow of foot, but you know what? He's not. He wasn't brought here to be a speedster. He's a Foligno double, really. And there's nothing wrong with that because we need grit. He hasn't found his place on the team yet, but I'm pretty sure he will. He's not a bad player.
Like Tom says, not a highlight guy. He's a banger.
Yeah, exactly. He's got some grit to him. He goes into boards well. You know, I like what I've seen. From so far. It's just no highlights.
And what Urban mentions here is another reason that Bogosian, at least Bogosian, is in, is he represents part of the size contingent for this team. Now that's Bogosian. Merrill is Merrill at this point. I mean, I'm just pulling up the numbers now just to kind of see what we've gotten so far from him. You know what you have. You know what you have with a guy like that. You're not going to get a ton. He has 1 point in 9 games. I'm just pulling up the number of times he's been in negative territory. That's not what I wanted. He's been in minus territory in 2 games. The St. Louis and the Florida game. Those both happen to be wins for the Minnesota Wilds. I like this. Bogo, Chisholm, and Hunt, third pair rotation. When you need a little size, you put Bogosian in. I could work with that.
Yeah, Bogo's a 7 is not a bad idea. There are places for him. It's just a matter of him doing it. You know, he's a big body, and if he's not clearing bodies out front of the net, what's he there for? Yeah. And like I said, he gets lost out on the ice a lot. And that's my biggest complaint from him because, you know, he goes up the ice and he likes to shoot the puck, and there's nothing wrong with that. But his job is to clear out the front of the net. Plain and simple.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that this will be the last year that we have to talk about Marcus Johansson. This will be the last year that we talk about John Merrill. Marc-Andre Fleury, this is his last season. And so that roster spot will be open. So all of those spots should, in theory, be filled by younger players on next year's roster.
I certainly hope so. because Hunt and Chisholm deserve to play. I mean, I raved about Hunt last year. I couldn't understand why they sent him down, and I could never get an answer other than it was money. I really like Hunt. I like his potential, and Chisholm has grown his game. And he didn't hit anybody last year, and he's doing it this year. He's trying to get on, every day, and good for him because he skates well. He's got his first pass outlet is pretty good, and he's good on the power play. He offers a lot, and I just wish they would give him more to do.
We don't need to put this out into the universe, TJ O'Connor. He said they'll probably all get extended with no move clauses this offseason. No, don't you put that evil on me.
Yeah, let's not jinx the team, please.
Here's an interesting one, Denny. Urban asking about Zeev Buium. Obviously, and Russo talked about this on his last appearance with Dan Barrero. This is something that Locked On Wild has been saying since he was drafted, is that the expectation is once his Denver season is done, that his ELC will be signed to get him a little bit of playing time here. Where do you slot him in on the D pairings?
Interesting question. Let me think about that for a second.
Yeah, because if we just look at where the D is at right now, Faber and Middleton has been really good.
Awesome. Yep.
Really good. And
you're not going to break up Brodin and Spurgeon. No way.
I think those two.
So he goes third line.
At least to get him going.
And by putting him on the third line, you're not giving him that much to do. You can't expect a lot from a brand new kid right out of college. Third line's perfect spot for him. And look how strong that makes us then.
Yeah.
Whether it's Hunt or Chisholm and Zeev, wow, now we're looking at an elite top six defense. Because right now, I know a lot of people aren't high in Spurgeon, but I love him. He's very underrated. He does so many things well. His first pass outlet is always good. And, Brodin is just smooth as silk out there. And, you just ask McDavid what he thinks of Brodin. And he has said it before. He doesn't like playing him because he can't get nothing. And that is proven over the years to be correct because Brodin just shuts down the best player in the world. Well, what's that tell you?
Shuts him down routinely, just like it's his job. Trav, who watches every minute of Denver hockey, just an FYI, Zeev has been really good, but not great to date this season. 10 assists in 8 games, but he plays a lot with the best line in all of college hockey. And Buium I think he's about 6 foot. I think right around that range, if I recall correctly.
Ask Trav. Trav will know.
Yeah, he'll put it in here.
Yeah. What else?
This is another good point by Urban. The great thing is he comes here, he's got Faber, Brodin, Spurgeon to bring him along.
There you go.
That's a good D room.
Our defense is going to be so good. It's going to. I can't think of a defense. Now this is also taking the fact that we think Zeev is going to be fast tracked, and I'm pretty sure he's going to. They're going to do the same route as they do with Faber.
Yeah.
It's just some players when they get to the NHL, they play better than they play in college, just like Faber. He took off when he got here. That's coaching. Faber had all the coaching, even though he didn't play the power play in the Gophers. He did in the World Games, and that people forget that he was really good in the World Games running the power play. So,
still only 18 too.
Exactly.
So he's a pup.
He's a pup who's going to be on our third line. That's going to be strong.
And I think
the hockey gods are looking down upon us.
I think the long-term approach is to have him and Faber pair up as a pairing. Long-term.
It all depends. We don't know how Zeev is going to play yet, so you can't really say that. I mean, maybe that's what they're hoping to do, but you never know. Like, look what Middleton has done with Faber. I mean, nobody expected that. And, Middleton's playing like an all-star this year. This could be a career year for him, I think. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, it all helps.
All right. Any other question?
Test out the pairs, adjust accordingly. All good problems to have.
Absolutely.
Just because Faber and Middleton is working well right now doesn't mean that at some point John Hines goes to something else if their play starts to dip a little bit. It's just what it is it's giving yourself options. It's giving yourself options to mix and match and to say, well, hey, I really liked what this line looked like against this team. Maybe that's something that we could use in a potential playoff series if the Wild get that far. I know it's still early, 10 games in, but if the Wild get that far, don't be surprised if Hines does a little bit of that, mad scientist stuff with the lineup, just some wrinkle that he maybe used in one game that he's like, oh, we can definitely use this against like a Winnipeg later on.
Well, the one thing Hines has already done is he's double shifting Kaprizov, which I'm greatly in favor of because when he put Kaprizov down the fourth line, it just it shook him up. What's he doing down there? Well, then you create big matchup problems.
Yeah,
and I like that. That's coaching.
He said too in one of the first games of the season that Kirill seems to be a player that gets better the more he plays.
Yes. He's averaging 23 minutes a game now. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Not for your best player, because we're a better team when he's on the ice, period.
He can handle it.
Oh, absolutely. What else we got?
Let's talk about this. Don't know if you guys have talked about this, but when does Jesper get a start in net? Like to see him get in against either Anaheim or the San Jose Sharks. The Wild have some cupcake games coming up in the next week or so. They play San Jose, Anaheim, Chicago, Montreal, all in a 4-game span.
Well, you bring up a good point about Wallstead. Right now, the Iowa Wild are they're playing very fragile. If something goes wrong in a game, they just fall apart. And that's all on coaching. They finally won a game. Wow. I suspect that our head coach down there won't be there much longer because Iowa Wild are a mess. They got a ton of talent, and the coach is he's in over his head. Because when a team plays fragile like that, that's all on coaching. And
they did. I think the Iowa Wild won their most recent game, and Jesper got both of those wins, so he's now up to 2-3-1 on the season. But still, you go through the first 7 games of the season with 1 point. Not ideal, but they have won a couple here recently, so maybe things starting to get on track a little bit.
I don't know. I've seen some clips, and looks like a shooting gallery out there against them. It's not always how the goalie plays; it's how the team plays in front of you, and it doesn't look like they're doing much. And when you constantly get, hit after hit after hit on you, things happen. I love Jesper Wallstedt, and he should definitely be up here. And what they did to him in the beginning of the season, sending him up and sending him down and sending him up, it's ridiculous. He's not playing. He's not doing anything except being on the road. This 3-goalie system thing, was a mistake in the beginning. And I just hope they give him a shot because as we all, at least I hope you all know, our number 2 goalie, I wouldn't bet on him for anything. I'm glad he won in Pittsburgh. Everything worked out the way you would hope it did for him. But, he's under 900 save percentage, and the average NHL goalie today is 910 with the backups 904, 905, somewhere in there. He's under 900. And that's him playing good. I mean, he actually played pretty good. He made a couple of awesome saves to win the game, and I'm glad he did, but we can't go the season with Flower. Yeah, it just it's not good for us. And I hope he realizes after he has a couple of bad outings that he doesn't have it anymore, and, time, as Seth says, to turn the keys over.
Yeah. I mean, he's had a couple of good outings in a row. That's not always going to be the case. And
no,
what will you do? What will you do to further that as the season unfolds? The big thing, I guess, is whether you were on board before the season started to have Fleury re-upped, as Ron mentions. Should never have been re-signed. I was kind of I was on the same boat, but
when
yeah.
I grew up watching hockey, the number 1 goalies played an average of 70 games a year. And I don't see why Gus can't do 70 games a year. That would be really good for us. And if Hines would look back at NHL hockey history and how it works, and players now are in so much better shape than they were back then. If they could play 70 games back then, they can damn sure play 70 games now. And that's where Gus should be. 70, maybe 65. But, this 40-40 stuff is, no, not happening. Not in my book.
Yeah, as Bob mentions here, once Fleury goes through a couple of goodbye games, he'll probably sit, do a little press box time, and he sells merch and he draws in eyeballs.
Yeah.
The issue with Fleury is that Guerin has too much respect for a guy he played with and was also in the office with him on cup winning teams. That's exactly it.
Exactly it. I mean, they're buddies in the off season, and that's another one of Billy's blunders, as far as I'm concerned.
Here's a question from Trav. Would you trade Marco Rossi if it guaranteed that Johansson and Freddie were included in the deal?
Oh, no, I wouldn't. At the beginning of the year, I told you I would sign Marco Rossi to a 8-year, $5 million contract, and everybody thought I was nuts. Said it would never happen. Well, I'll bet they're wishing they'd listened to me back then, because you're not going to sign him for $5 million a year now. He's going to be at least $6-7 million. And the sooner they sign Rossi up long term, much better off they're going to be, because Rossi is a rising star.
If you can give Matty Beniers a 7-year, $50 million, a lot of no's. Jeremy says no. Mike says no. Rossi has the league leader in assist upside. Matty Beniers right now, he's got 7 points in 12 games. And I think 3 of those points all came in one game.
Yeah, against Winnipeg.
And he got a 7-year, $50 million contract this offseason. So if I'm Rossi's agent, that's the starting point.
Yeah. Seeing if they would have came to him before the season started. Here's a kid who's just got 1 year in, scored 21 goals. You offer him an 8-year deal, he's going to jump on. He's made it. He's got his life in front of him already set up. And $5 million, even though it's a lot of, it was a huge jump for him. 8 year and 5, I thought was very reasonable, but everybody laughed at it when I brought that up. Now they're not laughing anymore.
Flower and Merrill to Pittsburgh for Cody Glass and a 4th rounder. Done and done. I mean, I'll make the call right now.
I would do that in a heartbeat. I would do that in a heartbeat.
You at the very least give him a bridge deal until you really see what Yurov and Height can become.
Well, that's an excellent point there. You're not saving any money by doing bridge deal, but we don't know what we have with Yurov yet. He's never played a game. Yeah. He's got all the highlights, and of course, they expect him to be a top 6 player, but you don't know until you see him, until he actually gets out on the ice with the big boys and see what he does. And I haven't seen enough of him to tell you that he's, solid or not. I don't like to comment on players that I haven't watched. One of my talents is evaluating players. And I haven't seen enough to say one way or another, really.
I'm just looking because I thought there was something that Russo said in regards to there starting to be some potential discussions about an extension with Marco Rossi. Did I dream that up?
Good.
It's just that could have literally happened at any point. I'm pretty sure it was like the featured part of an article, but I guess. Oh, here we go. Let's load this up. It was a mailbag with Russo. Okay. Latest you reported there had been no talks of a new contract with Marco Rossi's camp. They've got Eriksson, Ek, and Hartman locked up long-term. Danilo Yurov coming next year, and Murat Huznadinov looking like he's a much better player than he showed when he arrived last season. Blah, blah, blah. Do you think he has a long-term role in the organization, or do you think he'll get traded this offseason? Russo says, if I'm the Wild, I at least start the overtures with agent Ian Pulver because the longer they wait, the more expensive it gets. Wise words. So it doesn't look like he doesn't note anything, at least about the talk starting, but
they should.
I'm sure that I'm sure they've happened. Like I don't know. Like for as many faults, for as many warts as Bill Guerin and John Hines have, like as many warts as the front office has, they're not stupid. It would be dumb to, like I talked about in the offseason, as I know it was mentioned that Rossi was being floated as a trade chip. Doesn't necessarily mean that Rossi's on the table. It just is a way to get conversations going that you further as the season goes along. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Like without having the definitive yes or no, which you'll never get, it's hard to look at any of that stuff because we'll never know the answer as to whether or not Rossi was on the trade block in the offseason. We'll never know if Philip Gustafsson was. It was speculated that they were. We don't know definitively.
Well, it's all conjecture. Who knows? Only Billy knows. And he's not saying. I would hope that they sign Rossi long term. And at this point, they know they can't trade Gus now. I mean, I told you before, I was never in favor of trading him. And he's come to the camp, as Tom Reed said, best shape of his life. I mean, he looks really good. And you can tell in this play, towards the end of the game now, he was a little slow getting up. Yeah, that's because he was out of shape. You don't see that now. He's on top of his game. Losing 13 pounds got to make him a little quicker. And
he moves really well in the crease. Sorry to cut you off,
yes.
but I just wanted to. He has moved really well in the crease so far this season.
Yeah, he's everything you can ask for. I mean, he's a stud. And even though he had a clunker game, he had a .951 save percentage before Philly. It's .922 now. Well, anything over .920 is elite.
Yeah.
You know, and they had the top 10 goalies Sham put out. Well, he had 3 goalies that only had a couple of games played. You got to have at least 5 games played before you qualify for anything in my book.
I think the number, like the filter for top goalies in the league stats, is at least 2/3 of your team's games played.
2/3? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because right now that would be 6 or 7 games. For all the teams that have played 10, that'd be 6 or 7, and that's enough of a sample size, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
But like 3 games, no.
No, that they shouldn't count.
That's not it. I've got a comment up on screen from Keith, and then we're going to talk about where Rossi ranks amongst NHL centers, because there's a good conversation going on about that.
Okay.
Keith saying, I think Craig Leopold is pushing for a big splash trade. I think if this season continues the way that it has, I think that's absolutely best case scenario for this Wild team, is to make a big splash at the deadline that you maybe don't necessarily have to put on your books for next season, but that then can lead you into, all right, we are in our window. The gloves are off with Parise and Suter, although as we've talked about, a large portion of that money has already been spent. But the Wild, it's not like they're not going to have anything to spend. And so I think the deadline is really when this all starts. If the Wild are still in position as a playoff team, you've got picks, you've got a ton of prospects, you got a lot of ammunition to play with. If you have a clear need that you identify, second line, you can go get somebody.
Well, you know, as we talked about before, and we're both in agreement with this, we got a boy up in Vancouver from Minnesota, Brock Besser, who would fit in quite nicely in the second line. Think about Ekboldi and Besser. Jesus. That's a very strong line. And I'm all in favor of that. What's Mojo getting paid? $2 million?
$2 million.
2.5? Yeah. Well, we would have room to sign him and trade Mojo.
If they continue the way that they are, they'll have around $8 million at the deadline that they can play with.
Now that would be a huge signing. Getting a hometown boy. Yeah. I like the sounds of that, because Besser's got one of the best shots there are in hockey.
Yeah.
And
if we look at the teams right now that currently have single digits for points, or 10 points or below, as the teams that are kind of out of it, Buffalo, Montreal, New York Islanders, Philadelphia Flyers, Nashville, Chicago, Colorado, Anaheim, and San Jose. Right now, Vancouver's in third place in the Pacific. Unless they fall out of it, it's probably going to be that they look to make a push at the deadline too. But a lot can change. A lot can change between now and then.
Yeah, Brock's in the last year of his contract, number one.
Yes.
And he could walk for nothing. They got to consider that. If Minnesota could give Mojo maybe a prospect and a pick, be something to think about.
Spurgeon for Besser straight up.
Can't trade Spurgeon, number one. Not happening there. It would have to be probably a first-round pick and a player.
Yeah.
To get him.
A pretty good prospect, I would think. But
yep,
the Wild have a ton of those.
We got that. It's exactly right. We have a lot of prospects that we can make a deal with. What else we got?
I like this from Bob too. Sometimes it is a cheat to shop players to see what others say their value is, not so much to actually trade a player.
They do that all the time.
Yeah.
They want to know what other people think they're worth because you're not so sure. That's a good way of doing it, really.
Denny, where would you put Rossi amongst the top centers in the NHL right now?
For first line centers, I put him at the bottom. Simply because he's a second year. His gaining experience, his two-way game is way beyond his years. And he's still learning what he can do with Kaprizov. He's definitely top 20. By the end of the year, I expect him to be top 10. It's a maturation of learning. And kid's got all the talent. You know how high I am on Rossi. I love him. But when you're talking other first-line centers across the board, you got to put him at the bottom right now. But he's only going to go up. I mean, once Kaprizov and Zuggs figure out their mojo, he's just going to climb. And that's what you got to look at. He's not a superstar yet, but he's going to be a star, and that's for sure. I have that much thought. I don't know what you call it.
You have that high of regard for him.
Yes. Good. Well taken.
Who do we get to replace Zuccarello? Kaprizov and Zuccarello is one of the best forward duos. Every time they break up that group, Zuccarello suffers at least, so it's hard to tell with Kaprizov. I have a thought on that. I think the plan is for Yurov to take that spot eventually. So that would likely mean that he plays in the second line next year. And then when Zuccarello retires, then you elevate Yurov to the first line.
Isn't this Zucks last year?
No.
He's got one more after this?
Yes, he does.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I can tell you right now, and I don't see it changing. It's got a full charge battery right now, but age catches up with you. And by mid-season, you're going to start seeing a decline in Zuggs simply because his age catches up. I hope he proves me wrong, but we saw it last year, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see it again this year. Well, it's just the way it works.
That's why it's going to be that much more important to get line number 2 going. That if there is a little bit of a tail off, then you can say, well, all right, our second line is handling their business. Problem solved.
Well, I'd really like to see him bring up Ogren and put him on the second and see what he can do. Play him 20 games, give him second line minutes, and see what we got. I mean, how else are you going to tell? You can't do it by fourth line 7 minutes a game. That's not fair to Ogren. And unfortunately, that's how Heinz thinks, but maybe he'll change. Who knows?
Rossi for Zegras.
No. Hell no.
Zegras is a New Yorker. He's going to go to the New York Islanders when they are in the process of trying to get their rebuild going. he'll go, because the Islanders right now, they've got 10 points, 4-5-2. They are outrageously slow. They've only scored 26 goals in 11 games. They're going to blow it up. And one of the pieces that they get rid of, I mean, there are a few that they will, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they do some sort of we'll give you this guy and we'll take Zegras back as kind of a project.
Well, regarding the Islanders, you got Anders Lee, you got Brock Nelson from Minnesota on there. I think they got a defenseman too, who's from Minnesota.
Somebody, yeah, I'd have to look, because Puckpedia doesn't list the hometowns of all the different players.
Brock would look good here. Anders Lee would look good here too. I mean, they're up in age. They'd be excellent fourth liners for us, I can tell you that.
Well, I think Brock Nelson too would be doable, because he's in the final year of his deal, and what is he making this year? He's making $6 flat. I think Besser's making more than that, if I recall.
I don't know.
I
would go after Besser over all of them, though.
Besser's making 6.65, so it's not. It's not a. I thought it was a situation where he was making like 8.
Well, he had a bad year, your call, and that shot down his value quite a bit.
Yeah.
Last year he was good. The year before that he was good.
Yeah, and I think Nelson, on the Nelson front, I think he's got, it was 6 points in 10 games. Let me just see how many goals. He's got 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points in 11 games. Besser is 20. He's on the right side of 30. I keep going back and forth. I should just have. He's at 27. Brock Besser's 27 years old.
Prime time to get him. He's coming in his prime years. Yeah, I like Besser. I hope they can make a deal for him.
Yeah, I guarantee you that he's one of the players that Craig Leopold mentioned that they are looking to make a big splash with. 100%, I would put a large amount of money on that.
Well, it only makes sense. Number one, if the Minnesota boy, they're never going to take a game off. Just not in their blood. I don't know where mojo comes from, but his ethics are nowhere near where they should be. When you take a year off, but just because you got a guaranteed contract, doesn't fly with me. He'd be doing Herbies every day for 2 hours and then sitting on the bench until he demands a trade. Because I got no time for players like that. And you'd be surprised, a lot of players, when they get their contracts, they slow down and don't put it out. But you don't have to worry about that, Soda Boys. Yeah, I'm a homer. That's right. I'm proud of it.
Well, anybody else have anybody in the chat have any other questions? We're hitting the hour mark, and let's just look at Toronto a little bit while we see if any other questions pop up. Maple Leafs are coming in 6-5-1. They're 2-3-1 on the road. They played last night against the St. Louis Blues, and they lost 4-2 in that game. But if we look at the season stats, it is truly something's got to give today, because the Minnesota Wild penalty kill, not great. And I talked about it. I think the penalty kill is doing about 90% of what it needs to, but they're getting beat in the other 10%. And it's those attempts to clear that don't get out of the zone that the other team picks up that lead to goals. So
Yep.
it's just
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
When you can't lift a puck over everybody's head to put it down ice, there's something wrong, because that's the first thing you learn in defense is shoot the puck up in the air to get it down the ice to relieve the pressure. As a pro, you can't do that. There's something wrong there.
Yeah. The Wilds come in 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth in the league at 3.9 goals per game. The Toronto Maple Leafs are at 3.17. So not that much further behind, but that's Toronto usually is more of a 4 goals or more per game.
Yep.
So they're
have been
struggling
for years.
They're struggling there for sure, but the big number for Toronto, their power play is worst in the NHL. Worst in the NHL at 7.9%. The Wild are 10th.
Bodes well for us.
But then the thing here that you got to, I would just, if I'm the Wild, just play it at 5-on-5. Because the Wild penalty kills at 66.7%. That is somehow not the worst in the league. The Edmonton Oilers are at 62.5%. But win this one in 5-on-5. That's all there is to it. And you should be able to win this. I don't see any reason why not.
I expect us to win wholeheartedly, no problem. Toronto is they're mixed up right now. They don't know whether they're coming or going. They got all top end talent, and they have nothing on the defense. The top two are pretty good, but other than that, they're struggling, and it's the case with Toronto every year until they get their D figured out. That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. I'll just kind of rapid fire through some of the rest of the questions. Yes, we'll have a post game for you after today's game. So just have the Vikings game on one TV and the postcast on the other. What makes the Jets so good? I think we'll look into that in a future episode, because basically they're scoring a ton of goals. They're not giving up any goals. They go to the power play all the time. It's pretty much just that they're doing all the things that they should be doing, and they're getting a lot of production from everywhere up and down the lineup.
Kyle Connor's having a career year too.
Yeah. Hoptics wants to know what the drink of the day is.
You got
Hams.
Hams beer, baby. Yep. The land of sky blue waters.
I'll go to this one from Urban. Trennan has been paired with Joel Eriksson Ek on the penalty kill. So that's been one of your forward groups. Jakub Lauko and Marat Huznadinov is the other. Those are the two primary ones. Them. Yeah.
Yep. Like I said before, they need to play Marat and Lauko more. They got to give more minutes.
Yeah. What else? Yeah, it's a home game, Urban. We got predictions in the chat. 6-3 Wild win, 4-2 Wild, 4-2, 5-3, 4-1 or 6-1 if Wall goes back to back. I don't know. I don't even know who the other Maple Leafs goalie is. I don't think it. Oh, I'm scared to look. Anthony Stolarz, Joseph Wall, and Dennis Hildeby.
None of them scare me.
It'll probably be Stolarz. If Wall played last night, it'll be Stolarz today.
Yeah.
Beatable.
Good.
Beatable.
Very beatable.
Vikings
I think we'll win the
prediction.
game hands down. I'm going to say 4-2 too.
Okay.
Is that it?
Will Foligno and Reeves get into it today?
I don't think Reeves is playing. I think he's been benched.
Well, he's not going to fight anyway. No points.
Yeah, they had enough of Reeds.
No points and a -2 in 9 games.
Yeah. Now maybe they'll play him because he's coming to Minnesota, but
Reeves is cooked.
they're not real happy with Reeds.
No. That I think will do it for today. But first, we got one more thing, Denny.
Well, I missed it last week because, as you all know, I got sick. So I'm going to give it to you this week. What the hell are you smoking goes to Brock Faber for giving up that game in Philly. It should never happen again. I'm sorry it did happen, but you get my very first what the hell are you smoking, Brock? Because I don't know what the hell you were thinking doing that, but you did it and you deserve it. You know what that, folks? Thank you all for joining the show. As you know, it means a lot to me. Oh, I want to say one thing. I don't know what the hell is it with all you people. You know, we're getting 1,000 views a show now, and we don't even have 3,000 subscribers. People, you got to start showing some love here. It's really important that you subscribe to the show because it gives us better analytics and it puts us out on the map. And really, if you're taking the time to watch our show, which you do, subscribe. Show us some love. I mean, Jesus. Do we have to put it where the only way you can watch the show is to be a subscriber? Because we're talking about that. I'm not kidding. We are talking about it. I don't know if we can do it or not, but we're talking about it. Because, 70% of the YouTube fans don't subscribe to anything. They don't hit likes. They don't do anything. And that's coming to an end. Because we're not the only show talking about it. Everybody is. So you have to be involved. So please just show them some love. Hit the subscribe button so we can get to 3,000. Okay? Thank you, everybody, for showing up and taking the time to listen to me and Seth. And we'll see you next Sunday. Good night, everybody. We off?
Not quite.